Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We are super excited to continue with the Advanced SEO Summit. For those of you who just joined in this keynote, really excited to have you. Just a quick reminder, for Neil's session on Thursday, he will be given 2 keynotes instead of 1. Apologies for some minor technical difficulties that we experienced in the past. We truly apologize for it, and we'll make sure that we'll make it up for you. We take the full responsibility as a team for some technical stuff, but we have tons of exciting content for you as a part of today's summit. We have Andrew here, who will be presenting on how to beat Google with science. And in a second, I will pass it on to our moderator, Paul, who represents SEMrush, who's one of our partners for today. He will be moderating the session, and after Andrew's presentation, a couple of housekeeping reminders. If you guys have any questions, you can submit it in the chat. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and pass it on to Paul. Paul, please take over.
Hey, everyone. I kind of hear the echo in the background of myself speaking.
You might have to close your tab right now.
All right, I think that's better. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here. As Vasil said, we have Andrew that's coming on. He's an 18-year SEO veteran, and he's also the founder of an agency called IntelliGiants, which is a marketing agency that's specializing in delivering enterprise-level scientific SEO. And so he was handpicked by Neil Patel to come on and join us. He hasn't been doing a lot of presentations, but he's very knowledgeable about the industry. So I'm super excited to bring him out, and I hope everyone's excited as well. Just before, as Vasil mentioned, we bring out Andrew for the presentation. I'll be in the background. I'll be curating all the questions, logging them into a document, and at the end, I'll be asking them to Andrew. So feel free to ask any questions. Don't worry, we'll get to the majority of them, if not all of them. So without any further delay, I say let's bring him out. Here he is. Andrew, are you ready?
Hi guys. Hello everyone. Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Andrew.
Wonderful. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, can everyone see my screen as well, or am I on camera at the moment?
Yes, we can see both.
Okay. All right. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some of you. I guess you know, you're not all as lucky as I am, being based in England, where the weather is a glorious, glorious Easter bank holiday, 9 degrees and about to rain. I wasn't intentionally trying to make anyone particularly jealous about it, but it's the way it is over here. Look, my name is Andrew Stubbs. I am the CEO of a digital intelligence agency called IntelliGiants. We thought of the name because we're dealing in intelligence, and the giant element deals in a colossal amount of data. So we're big data specialists. So that's predominantly how we focus ourselves. So just to sort of give you a first few slides about us, and then we'll delve into the nitty-gritty of how we actually apply science to the SERPs within Google, Yandex, Baidu, Bing, and all the other search engines around the world. So we were founded in 2014 as a scientific study, which is quite unique, to be honest with you. We're very fortunate to be in that position. And we're currently, you know, the provider of a lot of data to a lot of massive players in the organizations that play online. I mean, the major players. So we're not Fortune 500, sadly, but all of our clients are. So we specialize in a lot of different fields within the SEO remit. I'm not going to bore you all with every single bullet point that you see on the screen, because we're limited by time. But I'm more than happy to share the deck with anyone afterwards and answer any questions that they might have. And I think it's being shared afterwards on a video feed or something like that. So how did it all begin? Well, we partnered with 6 enterprise-level businesses to create a solution that really didn't exist in the SEO community at the time. Many of these players really struggled to analyze large volumes of data, the sort of size of data they needed to analyze. the sort of stuff that if you were asked to wake up on a Monday morning and your world was diamond encrusted, how did that happen? The answer would be, I had all the data I needed and I was able to make the most accurate decision I could make with that data, and it had an impact. It gave me more traffic and it made me more money, and I could run into the board's office and shout about it. But the problem was many of the tools in the marketplace, and currently sadly to this very day, are only 20 to 60% accurate. And I'm not going to name anything, but that's not their fault. That's just evolution. We have happened to find the faults within a lot of these solutions, and we've evolved a lot quicker. So our founding partners, I guess, wanted a greater level of insight into the data. They wanted to be able to use information that was easy to interpret, and ultimately have a dramatic effect upon their sales in a positive way. So our objective was to create a technology that would drive real value, be able to handle an awful lot of data, and be able to turn it from data points into, large volumes of actionable information. I've just had a message about, I didn't realize, guys, my video is still on. Is it on still? Okay, I guess it is. Let's leave it that way. Okay, I don't mind. It's not a problem. So how did we get there? Well, we took about a year to build it, and then we put it into practice with 2 years use, real world use in the SEO community. And we delivered massive scalable results for our clients in that time frame. So, for example, just with the application of the science behind what we do enabled us to drive this amount of revenue for one of our clients. It happened inside a ridiculously short time frame, a matter of less than, I think it was just less than 3 months. But we took a search term that was giving about $5,000 a month in revenue. We turned it into $136,000 of revenue, which is obviously a 2,620% increase in traffic and revenue as a result of that. So, and that's the science behind it. In terms of why we were tasked, Google is constantly evolving its algorithm. It's never stopping. As an SEO, our job is to try and stay ahead of the trend and understand what they're actually doing. But, you know, unfortunately, without data, it's a pretty hard thing to do. So our founders pretty much said to us, it's possible for us to sit there and properly forecast our SEO success. You know, we're scared. It worries us. And in 2012, it was an absolute, you know, abomination of updates. It just never seemed to stop. So we took it upon ourselves, you know, to look into this, and it became something that was very, very important. And, you know, I guess that you can see from the graph here that we're scaling off from 2012 to 2014. 14 was a time where people were really, really worried about what was going to come next. So, you know, how we work, well, look, I have to say to you guys that there really aren't any shortcuts at all in what you do. Well, there are shortcuts, but they're not going to give you any future-proof success or any stability you want to shout about. So where are you going to start? There are 2 types of competitors, and when we're analyzing your exposure, it's very, very important that we start from the beginning. So a landscape analysis enables us to look at that, and we look at things like the competitor positioning. And when we talk about competitors, there are 2 types. There's your boardroom competitors, the people you love to hate, and then there are competitors that really are your competitors. They're the people that are physically taking the traffic away from you in the search results. And it's not just about the ones that are taking it away from you, it's the ones that are doing it most consistently. And I'll come to consistency later on, because that's a massive, massive gap in a lot of people's strategies. So the other thing to look at is really the affordability of an SEO campaign. Can you afford to profit from its success? Will you profit from its success? Is it worth investing in? I'm sure there's a lot of people listening today, and a lot of people who aren't listening today, who have had the horrible situation of embarking an SEO campaign and it not paying off. And they're constantly held on the edge by their agency or their advisor giving them the indication that it will almost happen, it's okay, and they're waiting 9 months at this point for it to occur. It shouldn't wait 9 months. It can happen in a matter of weeks if you do it properly. We have a saying in IntelliGiants that turnover is vanity and profit is sanity, and it's something we work very hard with our clients to do. We will never, ever engage with anybody if we can't deliver an ROI for them. It's just pointless. So by focusing on the terms that will generate revenue for you, your business can more accurately assess the gap in terms of whether or not it's viable to actually invest in them. So the point we're trying to make here is that Google is highly, I'm just going to hang back over here, sorry. Google is highly advanced and sophisticated at determining the order of the SERPs. By focusing on the small pool of terms that generate the majority of your revenue, you can actually home in on the opportunities that are more relevant to you, what we would refer to as the low-hanging fruit. So the first step really is that important landscape analysis, profiling, looking at the competitors, understanding what they're doing, how they're doing it, and is it worthwhile you investing in that approach. So here's an example of a real-time landscape analysis. We've got some tools within IntelliGiants that we've built and have come about, by some great ideas, and we've been focusing very hard to make them very usable. And it's all about translation of the rules used by the search engines into actionable data points. There are a lot of tools out there that give pretty graphs and pretty diagrams, but then when the real people have to get involved, the people who really do the SEO, it's a very different situation. The data does retain a lot of inaccuracies. So getting real-time information for the real traffic drivers is really, really important. Here's an example of iPhone 7, for example. And what will happen is our systems, and this is a very, very simple illustration for you. I'm not going to give away the crown jewels, but it plots the difference between the URLs. Now, there are tools out there that take information from other tools and they'll add certain numbers into the on-page and off-page metrics, but none of them will crawl that data in real time through API feeds. They won't take it and validate its existence. They won't do the simple things like take out all of the brands that you own, removing your close friends and family from that backlink profile. They won't take into consideration your disavow file, your Google Search Console and Bing Search Console metrics. They'll just look at it as if they're just looking at a piece of paper and throwing some numbers on it from a general consensus. We're very, very different. We like to think, we think it's very important that you as an organization do take your disavow logic into consideration. And of course, if you've got your disavow logic and you're not far away from your competitors, it's not so hard to overlay your disavow logic with your competitors. So the other thing, this is what I want to talk to you about, stability and consistency. A lot of you will be missing out on an awful lot of revenue. And we talk to businesses, very, very large businesses, every single day. And we're stunned by the number of people who fail to sort of have alerts set up or information sent through to them, giving them the insight into the instability of the search terms that are happening. So for example, an average rank of 5 will mean that you're not in the top 3 for most of the month. Just want to sort of delve into that in a bit more detail. So here's an example of a really highly volatile keyword. The issue faced by many companies is that when they're tracking thousands of keywords, they can't see this information. They'll look at the beginning rank, the end rank over a 30-day period, and then as a result, they'll look at the average rank. Now, if the average rank is acceptable and hasn't changed dramatically, no one's that worried. But the reality is, it's only really getting any air to breathe and make you any money or burn the fire within the business for a very short number of days. Whereas, it's suffocating and drowning in other instances. So we call this the rank volatility index, which is an algorithm that we developed internally over 2 years ago to enable people to identify inefficiencies in their campaign. Now, by removing the inefficiencies, you can tenfold as a minimum your traffic, literally. If you spot URLs that are generating revenue, you can make a massive difference. Just a simple calculation. I'm just going to read this because it's something I did earlier on in terms of the calculation, so excuse me for looking away from the image. But let's just say we've got 10,000 searches a month, and obviously there are 12 months in a year. So that's 120,000 searches, physical searches per calendar year that are happening. That equates to around about, I would say, 328 searches per calendar month per day. So it's per day, and it's obviously dependent upon the verticals. Now, if only 328 of these people are actually sitting there, and only 30% of those people are actually coming through to your search result landing page that's listed in the search results being position number 1, then you're getting 98.65 people per day. But if you're in position 2, you're getting 32. Position 3, you're getting 9.86, and position 4, well, it's less than 1. Now, you multiply that up over the period of time that you're actually in those positions over the month, and you can see where you're losing money. And there's a lot of holes and a lot of boats that are causing a lot of problems for a lot of businesses. And if you're managing millions of keywords, and we work with clients who manage anything from a few thousand keywords to several 100,000 to millions of keywords, it becomes a real challenge to look at this sort of information. So by falling from position 1 means you could lose, in this instance, over 60 visitors a day. Now, that's just one search term. That's not particularly aggressive. That's just 10,000 searches per calendar month. So just to give you an idea, just to sort of reaffirm that through the illustration we have here, this is really what you're looking at. Once you hit the yellow and the red section, is it really worth doing? So consistency is the key. What we try to sort of ingrain into people is that it's better to rank sometimes number 2 consistently than try to rank number 1 and be all over the place like a yo-yo. It just really works. So small fluctuations are natural because, I mean, Google operates across multiple data centers, and you're going to see inconsistencies in your rank data. But it's that consistency over a period of time that will draw your attention to the holes that are sitting within the business. Then we want to move on to auditing. The next thing to look at is the auditing. It's the on-site intelligence and the backlink intelligence. So you need to optimize your entire website across the board. You really do need to smoke out all the problems that impede its performance. Now, again, it seems like a really obvious thing, and it seems like a given, but businesses and people within these businesses are so busy doing their day-to-day tasks, so busy digesting reports from different vendors, different suppliers, trying to put it all into one format to present to senior management and talk about what's going on, that it's really challenging to sit there and be able to smoke out all the problems. But it needs to be done on a regular frequency or cadence. And every single web page needs to be tailored for what you want it to rank for. And this really does become a challenge for a lot of people. And we see this regularly, not just with the small businesses, but with the big businesses as well. Businesses with millions of web pages. We see duplicate meta information. We see duplicate content. We see interlinking problems. Everything is gone wrong. It's like an uncared for rose garden that's just gradually just got out of control. So you need to be 100% certain that everything is optimized in line with a specific checklist. Just imagine your website as a vehicle on the roads, and it needs to stay within the white lines. Every time it veers off, it's going to hit an Armico barrier or something's going to go quite right. And that means damage, that means time, that means lost time. So you need to keep the vehicle on the road. So all those things in a strategy will maximize your actual ranking potential. So the on-site auditing that we follow, and we encourage people to follow, is a very in-depth SWOT analysis. The first thing to do is to jump into the search console, the search engines, and look at what they're telling you. Let's just face it. I mean, Google, Bing, Yandex, Baidu, and the other ones, they'll tell you what they want you to see, but they're trying to help you. They're not going to give you everything, but it's an indicator. And in most instances, the first thing to look for that's most accurate out of all of that is the crawl errors, the alerts, and the messages. That's the first thing to sort of delve into. And then it's looking at the CMS setup, the platform optimization. The sitemap's a massive thing. People don't understand that if you don't structure your sitemap correctly, well, how's Google going to find anything? I mean, it affects everything else that follows. Is really important. And then the site structure. And again, I'm not going to list every bullet point. I promised you I wouldn't, so I won't. But and then looking at the code formats. What's the proportion of the code formats? What's the content within the website like? It's not just about a backlink profile. Content is a massive element of this. Content gets you into that pigeon box, that column of pigeon boxes positioned from 1 to 1,000 that you see in the search results. And then down to your credibility through social signals and your backlink architecture and other on-site elements, then you start to gradually move up. What's the semantic markup like? The number of times I've seen people using multiple H1s on a page for large organizations is tremendous, and it's down to someone else's problem. That's not my fault. That's Dave's thing. Dave deals with that. The excuses aren't relevant. We need to get these things fixed if you want it to work. And then we're looking at on-site auditing in terms of the analytics. And then we're looking at the future proofing. It's not just about fixing the problems today. It's about reinforcing what you do for the future. So W3C validation, it won't make a difference to your search results, people say. Well, it will if you follow the logic behind W3C validation. Just having a W3C validation stamp on your website won't make an ounce of difference, but the logic behind it reinforces good coding practices. And of course, then looking at mobile functionality, most people get 70% traffic now from mobile devices. So, what does it look like? And Google obviously being quite aggressive in their rollout of that mobile update. So we'll move through. But we collect about over 200 data points. It's coming up to about 250 at the moment, and we're cross-referencing data and analysing it, and we've got some pretty heavy algorithms that run that data through. But we're capturing all the raw HTML on the pages to do that. And then you're looking at the backlink architecture. Well, there are a lot of people who do backlink data. The problem is, it's like someone saying turn left and someone saying turn right. You have to make a decision at some point. Make a decision, be it the best decision or the worst decision. Ultimately, people say just make a decision. And that is the problem. So Ahrefs is great, Majestic SEO is great, SEO Rush is great, SEO Moz is great too. Bing and Google give you what they want to give you, but no one really has membership to all of these channels, and we recommend that you do. We have it, and we provide the information for our clients. And it enables us to take different data in different formats with different scores and put it into something where all the data is in the one place, the same format, all the scores. Who you believe will ultimately determine where you go in the search results. So why don't you listen to everybody? Listen to the whole community, because Majestic's bot, Ahrefs bot, SEO Rush's bot, SEO Moz's bot, Google and Bing, they're never going to be in the same place at the same time. They don't live the same lives. They're not programmed in the same way. And certain people block Majestic and Ahrefs. And so, you've got to consider that. So when you're gathering the data from these sources, also go to the lost links that they've actually logged as lost, because some sites don't want you finding them, especially the PBNs. Are they dropped domains? That's something else we'll come to in a minute as well. So rather than being restricted by one commanding set of data, it's important to realize that you need to have everything, because only one set of data is not going to reveal all the hidden gems across all of them. So I'll move on from this one. I've hung on this one quite some time. So by backlink auditing, we're talking about identifying the super links that support the competitors. What are they doing? How well are they building their links? Where are they building their links? How frequently are they building their links? Now, it's interesting because the likes of Majestic, SEO Rush, SEO Moz, and Ahrefs and Majestic, they'll tell you the dates they found them, but it won't mean the date the link was built. That just means the date they actually visited the website. And they've got a big job to do. Consider them to be Santa Claus traveling around, They've got a lot on their mind. They can't be everywhere at all times. So there are other tricks in the trade that we use. There's a Google recency hack, which will tell us when certain content has changed. And you can do that through the Google console and get some dates of when they actually notified the changes. You can go to the Wayback Machine and scrape the Wayback Machine. You can go to all sorts of places to look at when the content is changing. What you're trying to look for is the strengths. How can they be replicated? How can you eradicate all of your weaknesses? What products are they moving into? Do you see a growth in a particular territory or for a particular range of search terms? Are they doing some sort of guru style marketing or guerrilla style marketing? So here's an example, a very, very simple example for all of you, how we work. You know, I'm not going to overcomplicate anything, hopefully, but everything in the SERPs is relevant to the algorithmic changes that happen, controlled by the search engines, and the competitors. Are they making good decisions, mediocre decisions, or bad decisions? So here's a very simple algorithm. We've got metrics A to Z, and what we're talking about here is the red lines determine your brand is weaker, and the green lines determine that your competitor is stronger. By going through each of the metrics, and there are a lot more than A to Z, we're able to change the value of each of those. Now, it's important to note that not every metric carries the same weighting as the next metric, and it is an awful lot more complicated than we're making out here. We're just trying to make it very quick so that I can get through the 15 minutes without over confusing anything, which is a challenge for me, I can assure you. So we're trying to basically determine the next action based off facts. We don't want people wasting time. Time is money. And you know, there are so many people out there who are resistant to engage with SEO specialists, and I can probably imagine quite a few of you now sitting there nodding, because they're always going, well, I was told to talk to this SEO guy and he kept me hanging on for 6 months and nothing happened. Then he blamed it on a Google update, and this didn't happen. It's kind of just the way it worked those days, you know, and there are still those types of people out there, but the more data you have, the better the decision you can make. And if you can support your clients with that, or you can find an SEO person who has all of that data in front of them, they're the people to talk to, because without data, you're literally wasting your money. So then we're talking about future-proofing. One of the things that we're really, really excited about at IntelliGiants, we specialize in this. It's one of the big parts of our business is penalty prevention and penalty removal as well, obviously, and disavow management. But it all comes under the title of future-proofing. You need to segment your entire profile. I'll ask you a really, really simple question right now. All of you are online. You know, I don't know how many of you there are, but there are a lot of you online right now watching this, and you have some websites under your control, maybe one or several. Out of every single website, how many of the domains that link to them are about to expire in the next 60 days? I would be shocked if anyone really knew the answer. And that sounds really, really arrogant, and we're not an arrogant company, we're full of humility. But in my time, I've never found anyone who knows the specific answer. You know, there could be a lot of domains out there that are about to expire. And people just aren't prepared for that to happen. But they're frantically trying to build links and do content outreach programs. But they're not profiling what they've got. So what's the exact match, the partial match, the brand, the non-branded, the IP ranges, the subnets, the hosts, similarities, code changes, snippets? I mean, it just list kind of just goes on. It can roll out of control. Domain extensions, countries that are linking to you, analytics codes, urchin codes for the old school chaps. You know, we collect all the urchin codes and we categorize them up, and we can see that there are a lot of people who build links, and the root of least resistance natural to the human race is to negotiate a deal with a person who has control over a lot of sites rather than someone who just has control over one. So, you know, collecting that information is really, really, really important. I'll just leave you with a sort of graphic in your mind on this one. If you could imagine that you're the crab and Google is the crab catcher, your little footprints are leaving marks all over the sand. It's not hard for Google to come along and find out which rock you're under. But if you've got someone behind you sweeping away those marks, removing those footprints, then Google's not going to find you. It's going to go after another crab. By having similar subnets, by having similar IP ranges, by having over-extrapolated link text profiles, by linking from the same countries, by using the same domain extensions, by having similar analytics codes, similar code snippets, similar web templates, having all these things, you are leaving footprints all over the place for Google to come and give you a bit of a pinch. So think about that. So penalty prevention, you know, and also drawing more power from the profile. What once was bad might not be bad. What once was good might actually be bad. we look at things like, adult pharmaceutical racist link profiles. Not even the actual links, but the content within them and the words before and after, stringing up a lot of stuff. And it's horrendous what you can find. And there's obviously people who attempt to apply negative SEO attacks. It's very cheap to do. One man in a room can destroy what 20 in an office have achieved. So, what's happening? How aggressively are they trying it? And Google is always updating. It's important to stay ahead of the curve by analyzing all of your backlinks, for over-optimized anchor text, excessive IP ranges. You're able to sort of, I suppose, mitigate that risk, remove that risk, or at least reduce it. Everyone has the potential of getting some form of penalty at some point. I'm not saying everyone will have one, but large brands, it happens. And with the URL level penalties that came out recently, it's not uncommon for them to occur. Now, it's easy to prevent if you've done your homework, if you've profiled everything, and you're ready for what's going to come next. So, the conclusion I'm going to leave with you here, and I love this diagram. I found it years ago, and I just can't stop using it. It's a bit addictive. But this is exactly how we see the search landscape. It is all about science. Everything you look at within the search results is driven by data. Without that data, you can't future-proof yourself, you can't achieve your quick wins, and you can't effectively just switch off in the evening knowing that you're going to rank where you were the next day. You need that consistency in what you're doing. So I guess it would be, I would be remiss if I didn't do what everyone else expected me to do, and at least ask you, the simple question, do you think what we said is useful? And hey, join us and talk to us more. This sort of session is designed to stimulate thought. It's designed to stimulate ideas, and I'm hoping that I haven't turned you all to sleep. It's late in the UK, but those of you in different time zones, I'm hoping that you're still awake. And I will be around to answer any other questions in as few words as I possibly can use. I'd like to thank you all for your time.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. And right now, we're going to get into Q&A. We have lots of questions coming in. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to add on to the questions. I'll take them from the start. So the first question came in from Justin, and Justin wants to know if you have a brand new domain, so your domain has absolutely no trust, what's the best way that you can start building backlinks to rank your site?
Sorry, I've just got to turn my phone onto silent. I would say it comes down to the industry that you're in. If it's a really, really aggressive industry, I think the first, and you're literally starting from scratch, then you're really looking for social-led content. You need content that's going to be viral. I think, growth hacking was a term that I always struggled to understand. I've been stuck in the SEO community looking at data for nearly 18 years. All I tend to see is ones and zeros, and it works for me. But growth hacking is adopting a strategy that will spin out of control. It will just spiral. I think, if you look at some of the stuff that Vasil has put online about the growth hacking community and approaches to it, that's a great way to start. It's a great idea to sort of start with. The other thing is you should be building content, really, really good content. And a lot of people, struggle with building content within their site. But people will only link to content. They'll only share content. They'll only engage with content. The images, on Instagram will only work if you have content on the website at some point. So I would be building an average of 30 to 60 new pages per calendar month on that site itself. I would be taking all of the content from everybody on the first page of Google, and I would be then putting it all into Notepad to remove all the hyperlinks and remove, I should be saying all this, should I? But remove all the hyperlinks, remove all of the formatting, and then I just basically paste, shed loads of content in there. Then I start stripping it out and turning it into my own words, paste it all back into Word, then change all the grammar, change it into my speak. And then I'd create a content summary of it. The content summary will give me my navigation. It will clearly tell me what I need to know, because I'll have worked off instinct. I'll have worked off an understanding of the industry, something I'm passionate about, and then I'll have gone back and looked at the contents. Whereas if I just look at the contents or create the content navigation structure, like I'm talking about mortgages and then remortgages and offset mortgages and so forth, I'm just going to go off track. I'm going to get bored. I need to structure my content and write about it. And of course, by taking everything from everybody in the landscape, you're already taking a lot of the hard work out of it.
Awesome.
Then go and get people to link to you.
All right, so the next question comes in from Steve, and Steve wants to know a little bit about how you go about integrating schema markup into your webpage.
So by schema, we talk about semantic markup?
Yeah, semantic markup. So maybe go to the schema.org to give Google some more context about your markup. So if you have a review, Google knows it's a review. Can you get into a little bit more detail about how he would go about doing that?
Well, first off, follow the guidelines that Google tell you to follow. That's the most important thing. When we talk about schema or semantic markup, again, it all comes back to imagine you open up in England we have these things called Haynes manuals. I had them when I was a kid when I was working on my Mini. It'd tell you, you go open it up and it would have like the oil filter and everything else and everything related to the oil filter, and it all followed a consistent theme. That's effectively what the search engines are looking for. It's only when they find that theme in the page or in the website that they'll then decide they're going to start diving deeper and understanding if the entire website talks about that. And then if it does, that's a great thing, because that website is obviously considered an authority, and the more recent the content is added and everything else, the better it can be. But the schema or the semantic markup is effectively their tags, their semantic tags to tell the search engine what the page is going to technically contain, like definition, cited, emphasis. What used to be called bold is now strong. Absolute positioning through CSS is fantastic because it takes all of that that horrible non-consumer engaging content on the website where you have got call to action, even though it's at the bottom of the page, it enables you for the search engines to physically think it's at the top of the page, and it's not spamming. It's legal to do, legal in the Google eyes. So, and we have to respect Google by their rules. If we don't respect them, all of our hard work and everything we do is effectively wasted, and it's just not worth the hassle unless you're willing to churn and burn new websites.
So here's the next question. This is actually an interesting one, maybe a little bit of a controversial topic, maybe not so much. So the question is no follow links. So do no follow links actually pass link juice to your webpage, or don't they? Should you still look to get backlinks when they're no follow? What do you say? What do you think?
Okay, not controversial. I mean, Google says don't link build. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Let's face it. It happens, right? People say to me, don't speed, but if anyone's going below 30 miles an hour in the UK, I'm usually swearing at them and overtaking them. Be seen to be doing the right thing. That's really what I would say. Be seen to be doing the right thing. Submit your tax return on time. Right. Do things the way they're meant to be done. And when you go flying past a speed camera, hit the anchors or the brakes and slow down a bit. Link building is something that happens an awful lot in the industry, and if you do it in the right way, it won't get spotted. Right. And it's not just down to using social interaction and asking people to take your story and seed it around and send it everywhere, because that can also cause an absolute myriad of problems. Right. In terms of the no followed links, most people have heard the rumors that Wikipedia no-follow links are really, really good. Well, Wikipedia first is really, really difficult to get a link on. You might get one on there for 5 minutes, and then one of their authors comes along and takes it away. The other thing is no-follow links. They do drive a degree of value, because when we've looked at weblogs, we've seen traffic from places using certain search engines' IP ranges, using certain signatures that we know are the search engines coming through. Now, that might be because they're just crawling through, because they've got a link. They are coming through. That Google is not as white and crispy and fluffy and friendly as everyone thinks it is. But I wouldn't have your entire profile no follow, because then you won't rank at all.
All right, that makes sense. So the next question is regarding site speed. Do you take site speed into account? How does actual speed of your website affect your search engine rankings?
Tremendously.
Right.
The first thing I would focus on here is, first off, why would Google in their Google Search Console or Webmaster Console, I keep reverting to the old names of everything. Right. Why would they tell you the site speed if it wasn't important? That's the first logical process here. As a user, ask yourself the question: if you load up a web page and it takes more than about 2 seconds to load, do you wait for it, or do you think, sod this, I'm going somewhere else? You almost lose respect for the brand. You lose respect for the business. It doesn't feel like a business you want to put your money into, especially with countries that have got really, really, really quick webs, access to the web, like America and other organisations like that. I wouldn't say England. England's particularly bad with internet connectivity. We've got British Telecom and Sky and Virgin, and they're all useless. But I would say that in an established country with good fast web speed, you should be focusing on page speed, and especially in the slower countries where there's slower internet as well, even more important. And again, is it loading on mobile devices? That's a really, really important thing you need to consider. Before you do anything, you need to make sure that everything you have works asynchronously on mobile devices.
Awesome. So here's an interesting question from Christian, and he wants to know is the meta description on your website. So his meta description is very similar across multiple pages on his domain, and he wants to know if that negatively affects his SEO.
Tremendously. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean the title is the threshold of the page. It's the place where you carry your bride over the threshold of your house, after being married. Not that you carry on doing that after being married. I've been married 15 years and you get less for genocide, I can assure you. But excuse my jokes. It's only a joke. And she's not in the room with me, so it's fine. She's definitely not on this webinar. The meta description is basically then effectively the title, determines what the page is going to be about, and then a description supports that. Again, the description is a massive controller of the click-through rate, the user engagement capability in the search results, especially if you've got a product or a service that you're offering and obviously you're competing for. So is it 20% off, or buy one, get one free, or sign up and get a free bonus, whatever business industry you're in. The other thing is, if you don't have a unique meta description, Google will go into your page and it will sometimes just capture the first piece of paragraph text that it thinks is relevant and stick that in the description as well. The other thing is, if you don't have no Yahoo directory and no Open Emails project tags in the actual meta section of the site, then effectively they can go off and capture the work that these guys have already done by categorizing and listing your site in their directories. So you lose complete control, which is not great. It's like going down the highway or motorway and lifting your hands off the wheel and closing your eyes for 30 seconds. Something isn't going to go very well for you. So change them, use them. One of the good ways of doing it, if you're on WordPress, is to get Yoast, upgrade to the more advanced version of Yoast, and activate all the enhanced or advanced features of Yoast. And within a matter of seconds, That's all taken care of. And then your XML sitemap is created, and you link that into your Google Search Console, and boom, you're back to normal again.
Great advice. So the next question is, what are the top 5 link building strategies, for the post-Panda and Penguin updates? So if you had to choose the 5 top link building strategies that you would recommend to your clients today, what would they be?
This is great. I remember as a gentleman I used to work for many years ago, and he absolutely, he amazed me with the way that he thought. Very clever guy. And he said something to me about link building. He said he was at a seminar and he asked for people to come down and hand him his mobile phone, or sorry, their mobile phone. And no one moved. And then he held up a £50 note and he said, the first person down to the podium with a mobile phone gets £50. And there was an entourage of people bundling down to the podium to hand their mobile phone over. And that's link building. Sadly, that's the way it works. It's going to cost you money whichever way you look at it. You don't necessarily have to pay the actual physical webmaster, but you will be paying someone to either introduce you to them, to create the right content, to develop an infographic, to do the research to create the right content, to do the research on the social matrix that follows those pages and those sites, and see if you can seed into them in some way. We're talking about what is referred to as web real estate, and webmasters now aren't stupid. There are a lot of naive people out there in the early days, and then the ones that have got the right metrics, the right domain authority, the right Ahref domain rating, URL ratings, trust, citation flow from Majestic, etc., etc. People are wise to that now, and once they've got those ratings, they want money, because if they put your content on there, they're taking away what could be an affiliate link, which could generate them traffic. And you ultimately want to put a link onto a website that's got traffic, because if you put a link onto a website that hasn't got traffic, it looks like a paid-for link. Why would you do that? How come there's a link on my website, on that website, on someone's website, and there's no traffic? How did they know about this place? So unfortunately, you're kind of up against it. The thing to do is, if you've got an agency who are building links, come down hard on them. Right. Come down really fair, but hard. Use data to direct them. We have developed a link vetting suite within IntelliGiants, and it links into the disavow management console, and it takes the target domain that we're looking at, and then it cross-references all potential domains, 1,000 domains or so in about a second it will do. And it cross-references all that data, and it checks whether or not any URLs or domains have been disavowed historically, whether or not they're going to affect the IP ranges or subnet distribution within the profile, leave any footprints, similar urchin codes. Do they contain statements where they say they take paid-for links? Because you don't want those. People have a little donate button on the About Us page. Stay away from them, all that sort of stuff, and it will effectively tell you who you should be contacting, because we hear the horror stories of link builders who sit there for about 20-30 minutes trying to vet a domain, and then they realize that it's been disavowed by the client. And there are an awful lot of link building agencies out there who don't check the disavow file. They just never ask for it, which is crazy. So, I would say, the way to do it is to subtly build the best links in the most natural fashion. So there is no really one best methodology for building links that's open and commonly discussed in the SEO community. The methodology I would deploy is vet the domains first, and make sure they're not going to leave a footprint. Don't be that crab that gets caught under the rock by Google. Do not leave little claw prints in the sand behind you.
Right, makes sense. So the next question we have is, how important is AMP? So we can create responsive pages, mobile responsive pages. Now we can use create accelerated mobile pages, use the amplifier site with AMP. What's your take? Is AMP important? Would you implement that within your domain for mobile?
Yeah, I mean, IntelliGiants haven't, because we're like gardeners. The gardeners have usually got their messiest garden, We're too busy doing everyone else's gardening. So within our domain, we haven't done it, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be number one for SEO. AMP is absolutely imperative for the mobile devices. The protocols it supports deliver fast loading mobile pages, and that's important. Now there are over, if I remember rightly, 17. I mean, I did this years ago. I did a test. I ran several search results through 17,000 different user agent configurations, like the old Nokia, the Matrix Nokia, pushed a button and the handset flew out and all that sort of stuff, and the search results are tremendously different. So if your website is able to load faster than another website, it will ultimately, even though it has a weaker backlink profile, ultimately, if it's engaged with by the user through that mobile device, it will end up ranking higher, which comes on to click-through rates and bounce rates. So you want to minimize your bounce rates and maximize your click-through rates. That means when you're looking at your own website, don't click it. When you're checking your rankings, don't click it, because the first thing you tend to do is click the back button and go back to the search results again, and you've just obliterated any achievement you've made. So I would focus, because a back visit means it's not relevant. Google logs that. I would focus very much on AMP pages. Yeah.
Awesome. So the next question is your URL structure on your domain. So how does your actual URL structure affect your on-page SEO and your website's ability to rank in the SERPs?
The URL structure, dynamic URL formats can obviously be changed into modular rewrite formats, which is very handy. But there's no replacing that static URL format that you get, the page that will always be there. If you hyphenate the words between, it means and. If you underscore the actual words in the URL, it means or. So make sure when you do structure your URLs and you've got lots of words in them, you underscore them, not hyphenate them, because hyphenating them will restrict them considerably to what they're actually performing for. And underscoring doesn't restrict them as much. That's the tests that we've seen. Don't make them too long. Don't make them over a certain, I would say, try to avoid URLs that are more of a meta description than a URL. There's no point turning around and putting a URL in there saying, on Tuesday I wore a brown coat and a dog barked at me. You would want to put, Tuesday, brown coat, dog barked. Don't make them too descriptive. Just use the keywords in there and underscore and separate those keywords. But keep them under, I would say, try and keep anything past the / to a minimum of around about a maximum of 5 to 6 words, if you can.
Awesome. So looking through the questions, let me just see, maybe I'm missing something. We covered most of them. Here's an interesting one regarding featured snippets. How can you guarantee that you'll be featured within the featured snippets within the SERPs?
Well, yeah, that's really interesting. We haven't done an awful lot of testing on the feature snippets. But I can say one thing: if we did do the testing on it, we'd have the answer. Right. But we don't have it yet.
Yes. So
sorry.
It's okay. So you guys, if you go to like schema.org and you look at all the tags, if you try to implement that and actually tag your markup, then that should help you guys out. And
yeah, definitely will help. Yeah, but we haven't. Most of our clients are looking for physical positions.
Yeah.
And the problem with the snippets is, I mean, we did some work in the news channel, for example, while we were scraping swear word, scraping the Google news channels. Sorry, Google. not really. There we go. And we were listing publishers by the stories they were creating and how often they were creating them. And then we were telling our clients, create these stories at this rate to then move higher up the news results to appear in the news snippets and the search results. And it worked. And the best thing about news is that news gets an absolute shed load. I said shed load of backlinks and social followings, which is great because, so many people and large businesses go out and go, yeah, I got a link on the BBC or CNBC or Fox News. And it's like, yeah, okay, but it's a new page. It's going to be yesterday's news. No one really cares. And it hasn't really done its job. But if you're able to negotiate your way up through the news channel, and also identify people who are in need of good content in the news channel, they're kind of nearly there. They're on the lower ranks and they haven't got enough content on there. Offer them content. Contact them and say, I've got some great news content, and get your links in those. Now they look natural, right?
Yeah.
Because they kind of are, aren't they? And Google are endorsing them because they're in the news channel, for God's sake. So that's a good way of getting in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for answering all your questions. And everyone keeping up in the chat, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with Ryan Urban. He's the CEO of Bounce Exchange, and we're super excited about that. So just stay with us for a little short while, and we'll be back. Thank you, Andrew, for the awesome presentation, and thank you for taking the time to go through all the Q&A questions. We greatly appreciate it. Patrick says thank you. Mary says thank you. So thank you, and take care. Goodbye.